All right, we'll get started. So this week there were some big developments. I don't know if people keep up with the federal chair Jerome Powell and when they're meeting. I would suggest everybody start taking a real interest in that because he's going to be directly affecting your life for the next 12 to 16 months or more. They decided to go up with the interest rates. They had a meeting in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. It's something they do every year. And it wasn't an official Fed meeting, but it was kind of a big talking point for him. I don't know if people realize that's one of the richest cities or states in the country. So he talks there every year, and he basically said that for the foreseeable future, through 2024, we're going to basically be getting a rate hike, an interest rate hike of 0.50 to 0.75 basis points, and that's really a lot. And they said they want neutral to be at 4%. So to give you an example, when rates were down and people were getting 2% and 3% interest rates, it was the Fed was giving the money to the bank at 0 to 1%. So now the bank is going to be getting it at 4%, and then they tack on their 2 to 3% when they loan it out to you or more. So that's why everybody watches the Federal Reserve. They don't necessarily control the interest rates directly, but they control what the bank gets. And the bank from there goes on ahead and they add on their interest or for their service charge and everything when they loan out the money. So that's why you see sometimes some banks will, have a 4% interest rate, and then one will have 4.25 and another one will have 4.5. That's why you got to shop around a little bit. But that's besides the point because none of that's coming back for a while. And as far as any kind of real estate or anything like that, if you have something that you're getting ready to sell or you're on the fence about, it's probably a good time to go on ahead and make a decision on whether you're going to keep it for the next 5 to 10 years or get rid of it now because I think this puppy's going to come down a lot. In '08, I think we came down almost half, and they're saying the same thing now. But in '08, it happened a lot faster. Like it was like boom overnight. This time they're trying to slowly do it, but at some point he's gonna have to step on the gas, especially with everything going on with them giving out another stimulus. It's good that people are getting their student loans paid off, but in my opinion, that would have been served better by just giving out a stimulus check and letting people pay off how they wanted to pay it off, or maybe you wanted to pay off your credit cards instead of your student loan. And then a lot of the people who actually need the money, um, me and Al were talking about this. They're they're not employed. They don't have student loans because they didn't go to college. So the people that are going to get hurt by the interest rate stuff didn't get the money. So I don't know why he did that, but it is going to add to the inflation a little bit. Probably won't see it this next round, but definitely towards the end of the year or early next year. And if we don't have a good fourth quarter with Christmas, it's really going to start getting bad quick. And how that relates to you as far as getting your credit and everything together is you want to get your credit cards and your business funding and your home equity line of credits. You want to get all of that now because they're going to tighten up, and they may even come back when it starts going down next year. And in 2024, they may cut your credit card limits. So it would be wise to get yourself into some zero APR cards, especially anything with some rewards. If you got high balances, I will pay them down so you don't get caught on the flip side of that. Meaning, if you got yourself like a 30 or $40,000 credit limit on the card, and you got it at your balance up at 20 or 30,000, well, they may drop it down to 25,000. Now you're in the red in order to keep the card open, and that happens too. So, and then I also would get online on YouTube and start listening to like Al Jazeera, um, NPR news. Start listening to some of these alternative news sources so you guys can kind of see what's going on in other countries. Because I think what's going to make it so difficult this time is it's going to be like a worldwide collapse. So first one to the ground will be the first one up. but they're also jostling for resources and the shipping lanes and all kind of stuff like that. So everything's kind of in a whirlwind right now, especially with China and Russia are kind of trying to cut us off with the dollar as far as it being the exchange currency for oil. So they're agreeing to start paying each other in rubles, and that's gonna have a big effect too. So I would honestly take like a lot of time and really start researching your plan out and what you're gonna do. Because if you can get ahead of this thing and you're in the right position, when a lot of the property values and stuff fall, you're gonna be able to pick up the same house you were looking at for half the price. Unless you're where you're at and you plan on staying there and you're fine riding it out, then so be it. But if you had any plans on moving in the next couple of years or anything like that, or you got in and you got a high interest rate, you're going to be stuck with it for a while. And people are going to even look back on this 5% and say this was a great deal. So Veronica asked me last time to cover a little bit of that and how it affects you having your credit cards and all that stuff in the time frame. So I did a little bit of studying, and that's what they're based. That's what's out there for now. It is subject to change. Things happen, but for the foreseeable future, um, he's basically going to slow the economy all the way down until it breaks, and that's when you're going to see a lot of the news channels start saying depression and recession, which right now they're saying we're in a recession, but we've been in one since November. I covered that a few months ago, and now they're on the news saying it, but you're going to start hearing them say depression. And it has to happen, but knowing is half the battle and being prepared. So just to cover the economy a little bit. Um, so what we got today, we got our trust specialist Al on, and I wanted to let him introduce himself and kind of talk about the importance of the trust and what some of the benefits are in having a trust and why you want to have it structured a certain way. Are you there, Al?
Yeah, I'm right here. Hey, yeah, how's everybody doing? My name
All
is
right.
Al Scott, and I've worked with a lot of groups and stuff to where we've did a lot of study and work on trust. And I just have a few things that I like to tell people to get you pointed in the right direction. But there is one thing about that, Tobias, that you were saying about the credit thing that I'd like to add on when first one up, first one down, and like he's saying, if you have an 800 credit score, 750, well, the banks, when this thing comes back around, the banks always start off with a paper. So you kind of want to be in that position of a paper um, when the depression or recession starts to bounce back. You'll be the first one there while all the property values are low. And that really does bring up the fact of having a trust, because what you want to do is you want to be able to have a buffer in between you and the system, in between you and all of this damage that's going to happen to people right now. Most of the people who have trust have companies and their assets are insured, so they're not going to have trouble. They're actually going to have a windfall out of this. So, that's kind of what we were headed with. Is there anything in particular, Tobias, that you wanted me to get started with?
No, just go ahead and go in and give them some knowledge about trust and why it's important, because I think a lot of people don't realize how important being structured right with your personal credit, your business credit, and your trust, how that benefits them, even tax wise.
Well, yeah, that's the whole structure to everything. Actually, when we were 18 years old and we left our home to venture out here, this is how we actually should have been set up. Even when we got our first job, that job, we should have never had to use our social security number to do that. We should have used the trust number, and then now all the things you hear about people worrying about paying taxes, well, you now no longer pay taxes. That was our first mistake when we left the home without a trust set up with an LLC or C corp set up under it, which we would have done all our business through. Uh, a lot about how I started looking at this is I had property. Me and Tobias, we owned a lot of property before the last crash in 2008, and noticing some of the same things were occurring in the economy. I started to do research on the economic cycles and how the wealthy are affected by that. Why aren't they losing everything? So what we found out is trust and estate and trust planning is their number one way to hold on to their assets, even in times of recession, COVID. That trust will protect you against the harm that could come your way. Remember, when you're under a trust, let's say you have a house, for instance. When your house is under trust, that house is insured. Say something like COVID comes around and you're not able to pay your home. Well, you have an insurance policy. See what's happening to us now when you're outside of the trust, you lose your home, even though you're paying principal and interest insurance, you're paying that to cover the bank side of it. When you're as an individual, you're not allowed to cover your side of it through insurance. A trust can do that.
And if you guys are looking like in your loan packages, if you have bought a home or you just recently go through your loan packages, if you bought a house or in the last 2 to 3 years, they offered you an owner's policy and it's additional, but most people turn that down because they say, oh, I already got title insurance. Go look up what an owner's policy is, and they don't force you to get it. It's optional and it's extra money, but that owner's policy is to cover you. Well, it's the same thing with the trust. Your trust, you have an owner's policy, or and all your assets are covered. It may cost you a little bit of money monthly, but if, like Al said, if something happens, then boom, you're covered. At least you got your house. They'll pay your house whatever the balance is off, and you don't have to leave. And you can always go and refinance if you want to,
Yeah,
but
exactly. You have
you got a free house,
you actually got a free house. So
and
so that's the type of things you would like to happen to you when bad things happen. You benefit, and that's all about structure and setup. Go ahead with what you're saying, because
no, I was going to say the same thing that you were saying.
yes. So that's the major thing about having trust is the protection and to keep you away from interacting with the public. You let them have their machine, you stand back and just as the beneficiary and you just accept the benefits that you create.
And a lot of people are talking about this 1099 A stuff, and I have to say this every time because I get pounded with questions. So if I keep getting pounded with questions, I'm gonna keep saying it until we can curb some of it. The government is not gonna pay your bills. Now, if you're set up in a trust a certain way, you can mirror what they're doing, but you can't take something from somebody else's trust. That would be like on the flip side, saying that Al has a trust and I used to own a home before he bought it and I lost it in foreclosure. And then I'm going to go take Al's home out of his trust and take it back from him. You can't do that. The government is set up a trust. That's true. All the civics and stuff about in the history is true up until the part where they start talking about the birth certificate and they start talking about the government paying your bills. That those instruments that they're um, using have to be backed by something. It's no the birth certificate has no face value on it, so it's not an instrument. It's like a certificate of title for your car. Where where is the value? What is it backed by when you're sending these instruments off? Now, if you set your trust up correctly, like what we're trying to get you guys to do, like these guys that be paying 100, 200,000, 50,000 to get asset protection, we're trying to offer something to the community at a decent price. And you can actually get your trust certificates once we fix it up for you and you put value in there. Now you can go leverage that
Right.
and that's kind of the thing that people get mixed up. Now the assets in your trust, you can write a bond or a promissory note off of, but now it's actually backed by something. You're leveraging your assets. So if you
Right.
got 10 or 15 houses inside of your trust, you can go to the bank with your trust certificates and get a line of credit or a loan to go do something else and then pay that back and get your certificates back. But you
And
can't
that
go in there with a promissory note backed by your birth certificate and then tell them, yeah, the government's going to pay for it. They're going to throw it in the trash.
right, but that's the magic of the trust right there, as he explained to you. That's why you're putting all your assets in there, so now you can write up a bond or bill of exchange or promissory note backed by your trust asset or property. Now, when you need down payment money, you want to buy an apartment complex or get into some bigger and better deals. Well, that is your collateral. And remember, your collateral is insured, so it's always protected. So even if you're using that as collateral, your collateral is still protected by the insurance. So if anything that would go bad in a deal, your collateral could never get touched. That's a very important fact about, when you think about it, when you write up the instruments, that's giving you your protection.
And that's why you saw last time, like Lehman Brothers and all of that, that they were so concerned about the crash in '08. And this is what I'm trying to get you guys ready for. You can be on the other side of the fence. They bankrupt the insurance companies. That's why everybody was so worried. So the people that were set up correctly, when they start losing all of their homes and their rental properties, they ran all over the Lehman Brothers and popped their insurance policy for their trust. Well, Lehman Brothers couldn't cover. They couldn't cover everybody. It was like a run on the bank. So that actually ended up not working out for them. And you're seeing it right now in China. It's a company called Evergreen. You can pull them up, and they're teeter totting. They're having a huge real estate crisis right now in China, and Evergreen is tied into some of our insurance products. So you're starting to see the collapse happen, and it's happening slowly. It's just not hitting us yet because we're on the lower tier of it. But all of the wealthy people are already seeing it. Just like you see a lot of the CEOs and stuff step down in 2021. If you ever see in the future a whole bunch of CEOs start retiring, something's coming down the pike that ain't good because they get to see it first because they're doing the business. The other thing I want you to cover because he helped me understand a lot of it is the ownership thing. If you want to talk about that a little bit, Al, or why people can't see the benefits of the trust because everybody wants to own everything.
Right. Well, I'll start off by saying there's only one company in this country, and it's the United States Treasury. They own everything. That's why you have to have a number, a EIN number or a social security number or some type of tax identification number to do anything. So when you're being penalized when you try to own things, so we wonder why the taxes are so high and on our house taxes and our taxes on our car. It's because you try to own it. Take it in reverse. You have a car, right? When you own the car, you got to pay for insurance. You got to pay for gas. You got to pay the payments on the car. That's all. That's all detrimental to your finances. When the trust is paying for it, all these things become write-offs. So you're not really spending the money. You're getting it back at the end of the year in taxes in the wash. Things like your mortgage payments. become write-offs. Even vacations become write-offs. Because the trust, you're just acting as the beneficiary. The trust is doing this for the betterment of your life. So all things, and also that's why you would, even if you have a job, you would go lean up your trust. You have your trust lean you up so you can go into your human resources department and change the way that they pay out to the trust instead of yourself. That's automatically killing the tax burden from you having to go to work if you're still in the job mode. But the ownership is where we miss it. Once we stop trying to own things and just solely look to control them, that's when we start winning. Because all the liability is in ownership. Ownership equals responsibility. That's all. That's what I always say. So anytime you say you own something, you're really saying I'm taking responsibility for anything that happens with that. Why would we do that? You just want to use this stuff.
You can't take it with you. What you're doing is accumulating assets that are free and clear so you can pass them on to your beneficiaries, which in most cases is going to be your children. And
Correct.
that's the point. That's the whole point of you saying you own something so that you can give it to your kids upon your departure from here. So nobody can ever own everything. They're just, and what's happened is you've got these families that turned into cities, that turned into states, that turned into countries. This has been going on. This is an ancient thing. It's been going on since Babylon. So they've been, if you want to learn some good history, look up the East Indian Trading Company. You can type that in on YouTube, and you can actually see where the first corporations and stuff of recent times started, and how they're still around. They own a majority of everything behind the scenes. And study the spice trade. They were big in that too. So a lot of the
Yes.
stuff that people, and what happens is people hear this information, and then you want to jump straight to the top with the trust stuff, but then you got a 580 credit score, you don't got a business set up, it's not cash flowing. Like, this stuff happens in steps. It's not going to happen like next week you sign up and then boom, you got $1 million. You've been doing it the wrong way all of this whole time, and you got to work yourself up. And that's why we're talking about starting a fund with the people that we're working with as far as in the trust. So now we can start pooling people's money together and getting in investments, because the interest rates are going to be too high for you to go talk about buying anything unless you're doing like tax liens or deeds. But that's going to be something that you specialize in. That's not for like the general public. And then even with that, you're going to have to refinance it and have a high interest rate. So you're going to want to be able to have some sort of cash or alternative measures to get that on a credit card or something like that with a 0 point or a lower interest rate. So I would really consider thinking about it. This is how I think about it. If I don't have any money or no trust fund, if I can get, 50 to $60,000 worth of funding and invest that, and then co-sign my business and get another 50 to 100, now I got $210,000 worth of leverage. You know what I mean? Now I can go on ahead and get my assets that I'm buying, whether I'm doing deed sales or real estate, or I got a car wash or whatever your business is, hair shop, nails. Now you can get that money and those assets and get them into your trust free and clear, and get that trust, that value, because that's really going to be the thing that's going to get you up there over the top. And by the time that
Yeah.
this whole thing comes back, now you got your trust set up, and you're able to start doing the stuff the correct way. And then you've been buying on the way down, seizing these opportunities. There's going to be people that are going to be just trying to get rid of stuff. And even though there's a bad economy, there's going to be deals out there because people die, pass on, they're not set up right, they have estate sales, they're going to be having foreclosures. And if you got your credit and stuff correct, this is when these big companies make a lot of money.
That's true. And going back to what you were saying about having a company, make sure and having it set up right, make sure that you know what your position is as a CEO, and that connects to ownership. You do not own the company. You can only simply work for it. So remember that, because that becomes important when it comes to tax time. Oh, you can take it.
Yeah, yeah, it does. It becomes very important, and that's the other thing is tax shelters. Like that is how wealthy people really get rich. Finding different ways because it's cool to make the money, but then how you gonna hold on to it? That's the punishment thing that they do. So that's why you see a lot of wealthy people. They'll start foundations, and I actually just got offered to be on the board of a foundation this weekend. Actually, two of them. So it's a program that I used to be in when I was a kid that helped keep us off the street, and where we used to go do our homework and everything. And I ended up meeting with the guy that put up the money for the program 20 years later, and it was a pretty good deal. He did a lot for us, and I didn't even know. And he was actually excited to see that a lot of the kids from the program he's meeting randomly, and we're all doing pretty good. And that's the type of stuff that we want to get into as well, doing things for the community and government contracts and having your trust set up. You just want to have multiple streams of incomes or ways to make money, and not find out about it and then try to run and set it up, but already be set up for it so you can put it into motion as soon as it happens.
That is one thing, because you start to see your opportunities open up once you're set up properly. There's things that you hear about, the reason why you can't get to them because you're not set up properly. As a matter of fact, what he was saying, going back to the government contract, because that's an important part of the trust setup too. When you set up your trust, you want to set up an LLC or several LLCs, but you want to be doing business with the government. That's where all the money is. That's going to stabilize your business through any recession or depressions, because they have budgets. So a lot of people, I watched a lot of people survive the last recession by having government contracts. So everyone should look into a sam.gov registration. And if you do have a business, connect that business up and find a way to get some contracts. That is very important.
Yep. And the reason why a lot of people don't know about it is it's a kind of a tight-lipped thing. People don't share information when they're getting it in, because they figure that, if I tell you, then you'll tell somebody, and then all the money's going to be gone. They got more government contracts than you can shake a stick at. And I mean, trillions of dollars that they have to give away. But it's just sitting there because nobody knows how to sign up for it or how to bid on the contracts and stuff. And even though we can get you started and get you signed up, there's some, you got to keep being diligent about putting it in, because you're going to get rejections a lot. But the moment that you do one, even a small one, you don't have to start out with $1 million contract. You can get a small contract for 10 or 15,000 to clean windows at the city or the state. That gets you in the system, and then they see, okay, you did one good contract. Now the next time you come back, you can get something else, and you get to know the people and everything. But we walk you through the beginning stages of that. But I would start doing my due diligence on that, start looking around at some of the different opportunities for that as well. If you don't have any ideas for a business, or you do have a business, it's still good to look at.
Because it doesn't matter what business that your business does to get a government contract. So they're not going
Yeah,
to worry about what you do exactly. You can still get a government contract to do anything.
yeah, yep. It doesn't matter if you sell real estate. you can get a government contract putting in light bulbs at the state.
Good. And I'll put a gem out there as far as government contracts, because one of the biggest hurdles that you're going to find with government contracts is, one, there's a vast amount, so you're not going to know what, it's going to be so much information. I suggest giving the procurement officer a call, because it's really, we're in a people business, so you want to make contact with the people that you're trying to procure the contract with, so you can find out if there's any small errors that most people make on their contract, and it gives you a chance to talk and see where you're coming from as far as between you and the procurement officer. A lot of times there's a lot of people that are making contact, and that's how they're getting the contracts.
Yep. And then sometimes when you call in there, um, all of the opportunities aren't listed. They have some that might not ever make it to the board for you to see that they're there. But if you keep calling in, then they're going to remember you. Plus, it forces them to bring your application up. So now they're actually looking at it, and every time you call in or you talk to these people without being a bugaboo about it, they're going to keep remembering your application and pulling up your information, and they'll keep you in mind and give you an opportunity. For them, they don't care. They're just at work, so it doesn't make a difference to them who gets the contract. So that's something to think about. But that is a very important thing of how people stay on. Like even the trucking business, I'm seeing a bunch of trucking businesses go under right now, and the government has all kind of opportunities in trucking for hauling all of this stuff. A lot of the people that are hauling these tanks and tents and backpacks and weapons around, they're civilian contractors. If you ever hear that word, that means somebody got a government contract, and that goes for overseas too. They got government contracts to drive trucks overseas. Now, I wouldn't want to be driving a truck in a war zone, but for some people, they'll look at the dollar amount and say, "I'm gonna take a chance on this right quick."
Right.
But does anybody got any questions about what we covered so far? Don't be shy if you don't understand or you want to know, or say it why we got them on here. And I'm gonna try and bring them back so we can talk about it, because I think that the more you guys hear it and think about it, you guys will start putting two and two together.
Right. And if the more questions, the better, because then I'll know how to direct my beam here.
I don't see any in here just yet, which is
Yeah, but
good. But if you
yeah.
do have something though, just make sure you raise your hand. We'll get you on and let you talk. Go
Or
ahead, Al.
if you have any experience with the trust that you're already running, we like to hear what your experience is, because no one knows everything about everything.
There's always room for learning and improvement. Like I'll give you one because I think I forgot who asked me. Someone was asking about rolling over your out of your 401k, and we do offer that. But if you want to talk about that, Al, the double taxation with the 401k that's coming up for all the retirees.
Yeah, yeah, and they lowered it to 25% both times, but it's still gonna have the same effect. Yeah, if you're getting close to retirement, you might want to look at rolling over that 401k into an IRA, or some type of annuity, so you can save yourself, because they will be taxing that thing. There's a lot of people losing right now, because they are coming out retiring in that 401k and finding out that their $1 million has just turned into 250,000. which that makes a big difference. So yeah, if you need to want some more information about that, contact Tobias and we'll sit down and talk to you and get a plan together how to navigate your way out of that, because that is going to be a big thing, especially with the baby boomers retiring. And that's also, like you said, about the market. One thing that they're not talking about, why the market has to come down, is because you have all these baby boomers emptying out of the market right now. They're at that retirement age. They're taking their 401ks and cancel them. So we gotta we got a double pronged thing happening here. It's not only the natural economy cycle, but I think the baby boomers are 55 million people are leaving the economy. So that is one big thing that we have going on out here. So we have to, if you are in that position, or if you know anyone in that position who's about to retire, especially from the state or federal government, I've noticed that a lot of those workers don't realize what's happening. Have them get Tobias a call, because we can help them save a lot of money in their retirement. Tobias.
Sorry about that. I was muted out. Yeah, I'm working on that, and then I'm also working on getting you guys access to some insurance people, because they got certain insurance policies that benefit you as well. Um, so, for instance, another example of a tax shelter. So, say you go buy a property and you got $50,000 worth of profit. Well, you can go stick that 50,000 into an insurance policy, right? Then you can have access to that money and take a loan out on it when you need it. You don't have to get taxed on it right away. And then loan money is not taxable. And then you're paying it back monthly, but you're paying it to yourself. So when you're done with that opportunity, you put the money back, and then you can use it again. And then if something happens, like unfortunately you pass away or something, whatever the balance is in there will go to your kids or whoever the beneficiary of the policy is. And I kind of like that strategy. I like that strategy a lot. I think that that's something that I wish I would have known a little earlier in life. That insurance period, if you hear the thing, is important. You hear it with your trust, you hear it with the life insurance. Like, that's something that we should all have, especially if you're halfway through your working career, you're somewhere around getting ready to retire, etc. That's what you want to do, period. Want to get something set up and start planning this stuff. Like, you should be sitting down every year. Like, we're going into 2023, right? We're coming into the, what is this? Going into the end of the third quarter, beginning of the fourth quarter. You should be sitting down with your tax guy. You should be sitting down with your CPA, whoever you may be doing your business with, and getting your plan together and seeing what write-offs and stuff are available. So when you go do your taxes, you're getting the maximum amount of write-offs that you can. Same thing with going into the year 2023. In the first quarter, you should have your whole plan together for what you're going to do for the whole year. You're planning on buying a business, you're planning on starting a business, you know, all of that stuff matters. And that's what keeps wealthy people wealthy, managing your money or getting with somebody who knows how to manage your money. It means a great difference in how it comes out in the end. Like, I hope everybody had a chance to watch The Billions. That's my favorite show, hands down. That's one of the best shows I've ever seen. It's not even a contest as far as learning how to do all of this stuff and what's really going on. It's powerful information, and it's all based on real stuff. If you see the deals and stuff that they're doing, and the fighting and stuff that's going on, and the SEC violations, all of that stuff really happens right behind the scenes. But They don't talk about that stuff on the news because these guys own the news stations and stuff too. So they're not going to tell on themselves, but I think the internet is forcing a lot of this information to come out, and people are studying it.
Yeah,
A
and
lot of people are studying.
was one thing that you did say about the insurance that people might want to write down and count down and check out. It's called a COLI account. It's a corporate owned life insurance in which when you set up that LLC, if you have a COLI account, you can insure up to 35 people under one policy. So that might be something to take a look at too also when it comes down to insurance, and that insurance can be leveraged like he was saying earlier.
Yep. You want to put your money into things that are growing and that you have access to, that are tax shelters. You want to get it to the point to where all you're dealing with, if you got your trust set up right, when all you're dealing with is loan money. So once you build your trust up and you have enough assets, then you can go to the bank, and get yourself $1 million, $2 million, and set yourself up a budget for the next 2 3 years, just your household budget, and your assets will pay for the loan. You just got to do the numbers to make sure you cover. Don't write it too close, but I would definitely be looking into stuff like that. Period.
And
That's
another
like a
little
go ahead.
tip when you value your trust, start looking into intellectual property. Intellectual property is a very vague way to have your trust value. So that's just a tidbit of information when you do, because we're talking about assets and value. A lot of us have a lot of different talents, maybe music, art. We write books. Well, all of that has value. Remember that, and that'll be included in part of your intellectual property. Uh, Go
We
ahead. I
got
just wanted to throw that in.
we got a question. They said, can you please explain more about the 401k and double taxation?
Okay, what happens with the 401k when it's two things that happen when you go in and it gets released. They're going to tax it once before they release it to you, and then when they release it to you outside, it's taxed again. That's what the double taxation is. So I think they dropped it down to try because the people were complaining, but it's still going to be close to 50% twice. So if you have $1 million in your retirement account, when they tax it to two times, then that million is going to get taxed. The first time you got million, now it's 500,000. They're going to tax it again on the outside. That 500,000 becomes 250,000, and that's your actual retirement. Was that good enough?
Yep. And we got one more question. People get an LLC or should they get an S corp? What's the difference? Is one better than the other?
Well, the LLC and the S corp is really sort of the same thing. Um, when it comes to taxes. LLC is usually just considered by the IRS um, several S corps put together because you usually have a partnership. If I'm doing it for my trust, I'm going to do an LLC. LLC, or you would go with the C corp. Do not do an S corp for your trust.
And if you want to do an S corp, you can make it work, but depending on what your business is, you want to look at it at that as well. So, like if you don't have any partners, you know what I mean, then it's an S corp. If you plan on doing something with a group, you know, a group of people, you guys are investing together, then that's when I would look at a LLC.
Correct. And in some circumstances, you can have a LLC in place, set up the same way you would have an S corp, but it's just the when you start talking about S corps, you start talking about flow through taxation,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where even though you get it with an LLC, that there is certain rules that um, are advantageous when dealing with corps to have a LLC or a C corp.
Agreed.
Anything else?
No, I don't see any more questions. Nope. That looks like that was the last question.
And
So,
remember when we start talking about recessions and depressions, if you're set up properly, this is the perfect time for you. You should
yeah.
be excited because this is your turn. So,
Yep.
it's not all doom and gloom. Most of us need the prices to come down so we can get back in the game. So, we should be looking at this depression or recession cycle as a chance for us to get back in the game.
Yep. All
Yeah,
opportunity.
that's what you look at. Because if you're not a multinational company, or your profession solely depends on something that's going to get hurt in a recession, then you're probably in a great position right now, and it's the time to be looking to will and deal instead of sitting on the sidelines. A lot of times the media will try to scare you off to the sidelines. Small business owners, they're trying to scare you off to the sidelines. Well, this is the time where the wealth is being transferred, so you want to be a part of that. You get your credit situations together, get your trust built properly, and now you're in position to play the game.
Yep. Does anyone else have anything? Any questions? If you do, it helps everybody.
I have
Go on.
one other mention before we leave is if you want some information on trust that can help you, I would suggest a Weiss Concise Handbook, and I would actually read that extensively. So to get you a
I think we lost you. Yeah, I think we lost him. But yeah, he's talking about White's Concise Handbook. You can Google it. It's maybe like 70 pages. And then they got a lot of the forms and stuff in there too for you to use, like templates. Um, the guy actually went through several different trust handbooks and everything and put together like a smaller template type style for, so it kind of save you some time on studying. But any information that you can get on trust, please do so. The more the merrier. Study, 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 and it's a forever changing thing, and you got to kind of keep up with it. But it's worth it in the end for you and your family for sure. Let's see. I don't see any other questions here, so I'll try and we're actually going to try and start doing some YouTube videos and stuff as well. I want to kind of try to put some of this information out a little bit without without upsetting things too much, because there's some stuff that I know that I can put out that'll get us in trouble. So, okay, we got that one already. So if nobody else has anything, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. I'll try and be on at the same time every Sunday if I can. Sometimes it's hard to get on just with the kids. This is kind of my time that I have with them, but I try to get on for an hour every Sunday. And hey, you need to put on some shoes. You want to be out here? Go put on some shoes. So I will. Oh, we got one more question. Oh, nope. So that's it.
Yeah.
I'll try and get on. Oh, there you go. You can finish
Yeah.
up your thought, Al.
Oh no, I was just you finished it up about the wife's trustee handbook. That's a pretty good read for anyone trying to understand the inner workings of the trust and how it works within how you're doing business with the country.
Yes. And just stay away from the 1099 OID and A and all of that stuff. Just stay away from it. You'd be better off doing your credit. It's quicker. All right. Well, I'll see you guys next week. And if I can squeeze in another room during the week, I'll try and send out a message to you guys. But that's pretty much all we got. And if you guys do want to hear something, just contact me and let me know, and I'll try and do a video on that subject for you guys if I have some knowledge on it. And we're going to try and start getting some other people on here too, some insurance people, some people who are doing taxes, CPAs, and stuff like that. And then I got a gentleman that offered me to the foundation. I'm going to do an interview with him and see can he come on here and talk, because he has a wealth of knowledge about government contracts. He actually started doing government contracts in the 70s, so like when the programs first started. So I just want to see can I get time from him. He's an older gentleman, but I sat down and talked with him for about an hour, and he has just an amazing story that I think people should hear. How he was able to create wealth for his family and what he did with it. So I'll see you guys. You guys have a good one. It was thanks for showing up, and we'll see you next week, 6 p.m. All right.
All right, thanks.